A chapter from Germany's industrial history, the Bitterfeld chemical plant in its prime around 1930. Today, Bitterfeld houses state-of-the-art chemical plants, all built after German reunification starting in 1990. The old chemical plants, such as this chlorine alkali plant, have already been dismantled. Since 1917, chlorine was produced here on a mercury base, highly toxic. Starting in mid-November 2003, the old plant was completely dismantled and disposed of, down to the last brick. A neat trick, even for experts. We were there. January 21st, 2004, a winter morning right out of a picture book. -2 degrees Celsius, ideal weather for dismantling. First impression, everything looks as if Christo had wrapped it up. But this is not art, it's protection, because the area behind the white wall is contaminated. Nobody can enter this white area without protective clothing, made from special material with a breathing apparatus. This also goes for the dismantling machine drivers, except here the cabin is hermetically secured and externally ventilated. Communication only over radio telephone. The men of Plumbeck Contracon are hard at work here. Specialists in decontaminating contaminated soil and water and dismantling contaminated buildings. We've specialized in dismantling mercury alkali electrolysis plants since 1996. We have now dismantled all the electrolysis plants in the heart of Germany. 2 installations in the BSL plant in Schkopau-Bitterfeld, the Chlorine 1 plant, and now the follow-up job, Chlorine 3. Meanwhile, at the Bayer plants in Leverkusen, we've also partially dismantled and removed the interior of a chlorine alkali plant in 2 construction stages. This facility won't simply be torn down lickety-split, but rather the work will be done according to logistics based on experience, taking the particular features of the site into account. We have to proceed systematically using the specified technology to prevent the building from collapsing, because uncontrolled dismantling can lead to mobilization of the mercury. Even before the first bulldozer rolls out, Plumbeck Contracon and its partners have practically every move planned. One of the partners is Bisantech Nova, right here in Bitterfeld. Its expertise combining engineering know-how with intelligent information systems. And not just in restructuring contaminated industrial sites in the German chemical triangle, but also in planning and developing new plants and procedures, such as the world's largest industrial algae breeding facility in K+S in Saxony-Anhalt. The engineering for dismantling Chlorine 3 was developed here based on harmful substance analyses and comprehensively documented in a data system.
This is die Stärke unseres Unternehmens.
This is the strength of our company, joining together with innovators and an investor to implement and develop an idea.
Umzusetzen und zu entwickeln.
Back to the work site. Here the men's skill is called for as they precisely control the heavy technology. The huge plant falls apart systematically and seemingly effortlessly, piece by piece, as if torn apart by dragon jaws. An inspector from an external independent laboratory appears on the site unannounced and measures the air readings, focusing on the quantity of mercury per cubic meter. 0%, a credit to Plumbeck Contracon and its men. Dismantling, the material is organized into piles of debris. In the foreground, the steel and iron beams. The steel and iron scrap goes to the cleansing plant inside the secured area. The components are cleansed with a spray lance in a tarpaulin tent with a 2,000 bar high-pressure water jet. The cleansed scrap is stored and subsequently melted down, that is to say, recycled. First, however, the degree of cleansing is tested. The test samples are identified, recorded, and the highly sensitive measuring apparatus is applied. The precise measurements are documented. By the way, not 1 gram of material is removed from this dismantling site without having been tested and documented. The masonry, bricks and concrete is taken away to a crusher. This plant is also completely secure. As you can see, the apparatus is hermetically sealed. Clean air is supplied to the driver in his cabin because crushing the contaminated material creates a lot of dust. The crushed debris is conveyed to a closed-off facility for temporary storage. Now the external inspectors get involved to examine the piles of debris. In protective clothing with oxygen masks, they take samples at various points, well mixed and poured into light-proof screw-top jars. And, yes, you guessed it, everything is precisely documented. The samples go to the laboratory in these special containers, and an X-ray fluorescence procedure determines the precise material composition. The mercury level is, of course, especially interesting. These data must be passed on to the subsequent disposal company. A new shift. The workers from the big bag plant go to the black area. Here once again we can see the high security and hygiene measures. The boots are washed. The protective clothing is removed and disposed of in waste containers. Now we're back on the dismantling site. The apparatus works its way toward the main transformer building. The outside walls are dismantled. Here again we can clearly see just how cautiously the men go about this job. Work is carried out steadily and according to strict, carefully monitored regulations. Everyone here knows what he's doing. The contaminated materials are handled with impressive expertise. Last shot for today, January 21st, 2004. The main building with the transformers viewed from the road. The same scene 3 weeks later, in mid-February 2004. The building is to come down today. The dismantling site is doused with water to avoid excessive dust, a cautionary measure. Once again, we're struck by the fact that almost 100 years of industrial history are drawing to a close. The Plumbeck men give their all, making room for something more modern. This long shot shows us the disassembly of the building is nearing completion. They tell us everything is running according to plan. We wonder how things will look in March, a month from now. Once again, we are on location to record the removal of the big bags from the disassembly site. The special transporter drives up. All clear, can we get started? The transporters are well suited for the job, with a loading area where the big bags are secured with tear-proof tape. They are protected from wind and weather by tarpaulins. Once again, the team functions like clockwork, loading each transporter with 20 big bags totaling 26 tons. Now the transport consignment note is delivered. This has all the information, number of big bags, weight, content, contamination levels, and date. The driver signs the consignment note. Have a good trip. Finally, the A sign is opened at the back to tell everyone on the road that this is a waste transport. Here's the destination, the K+S potash mine in Seelitz, north of Magdeburg. This is the newest potash plant in Germany. It went into operation in 1973. Thanks to sizable deposits, 700 meters down, it's also one of the largest in Europe. We're on the spot when the transporters from Bitterfeld arrive and pull into the large handling shop. First, as you know, the consignment note, weight certificate, disposal list, and producer name are delivered. Hi, Wolfgang. This is the weight certificate, and that's the consignment note and waste certificate.